Hello and welcome back to Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore. In this third series, we started off by looking at what are the modules that you get with Rack 2 Pro, and also the bundle with soundstage and drums included. And now we're going to continue on our exploration of the different free module libraries out there. For the next few episodes, I'm going to be looking at the KautenjaDSP brand of modules. These modules overall model a number of vintage video game sounding chipsets from Nintendo Entertainment System to some of the Sega systems to Atari, and it has a few other tools in it too. So in this episode, to divide things up, we're going to start off with two chipsets that are modules. They're modules that model these chipsets that are from the Nintendo Entertainment System history, and they will be the Konami VRC6 and the Sunsoft FME-7. A bit of a mouthful to remember there and everything, but you don't need to know these chipsets intimately in order to make some great sounds with them. But I'll be showing you the ins and outs of these modules so that you can start making some great vintage video game sounds right away. So without further ado, let's go on. Okay, so if you're seeing this episode for the first time, I do have numerous episodes, Series 1, Series 2, and this is halfway through Series 3. So if you're not familiar with VCV Rack yet, you might want to start with Series 1, Episode 1. For those of you that have been following the series, we do have our MIDI module here and audio out. And I kept things real simple. Basically, we're going to look at these two modules. This one at the top models the Sunsoft FME-7 chipset. And the way you could always find that information out, I just right-click to open up my whole rack library. And this is the one that we're looking at here. So you can highlight over any of the modules, read the descriptions, and see what their origins are. I decided to start with these two because they're fairly simple, and they do yield some great vintage sounds. And the two modules themselves have some similarities, but differences that would be interesting, I think, for us to talk about. So anyway, I basically have pitch going in to the first lane right here, first column, which is tone 1, and I have the fader up for this module, but the fader down for this module. So for now, you can basically ignore this module. We're only going to be hearing this one. We'll hear one at a time here. So pitch is going in, and I have the gate going straight to the amp here. You can, of course, take your gate into an envelope generator, like an ADSR, and then take the output from that envelope generator and go in here if you want to envelope the sound at all. But I just find when I hook it up directly like this, it gets, it really sounds video gamey. And so it's like, it has a little bit more of that, you know, that original type of sound, because there's no additional envelope there. And I also don't have the velocity hooked up, so everything's played at equal level there. Notice that when I play a note and do a glissando, you don't hear that beginning articulation for the notes because basically I'm pressing other keys while other keys are still being held down for a brief moment. And so you can get, if you don't want that, you got to make sure you separate them and so forth so that you get that articulation, which has a bit of a snappiness to it. It doesn't sound like it sounds like something that would happen in like some of these vintage video games. So I'm not worried about it, but just so you know, if you still want to be able to go without an envelope and get this sound, you can use process. And basically take your gate into the input of process and take the slew output, then turn up the slew a bit. And while you play, I still hear a little articulation there, but it sounds a little bit better. If I turn the slew up too much, it starts sounding a little grainy, but you may want that. So just wanted to point this out, but I think in general, I'll probably go without it. Let me just turn this slider down. I learned my lesson. When you disconnect the gate like that, it's probably best to turn down your levels. So I'm going to go from here to here because the one below is hooked up. Alrighty, there we go. And then I can initialize this. Okay, so you see my pitch is going into tone 1, and the gate is going into tone 1, and the audio output is coming out from tone 1. Now, you notice these arrows here? These are indicating that this input is being chained along, kind of like a daisy chain along, and basically the gate input here will also affect these inputs. It goes from left to right. If I put this audio output here to tone 2, we're now going to hear 2 tones simultaneously. Sounds a little thicker. And if you use the pitch knobs up here, you can actually detune one of them. There you go. So that's one of the purposes for this overall design. Now, if you did something, I'm going to initialize this knob again. If you did something like this, where say your pitch is coming into tone 2, because things do work kind of like left to right, this will go left to right. We're coming out tone 2, so we're not hearing tone 3. We're only going to be hearing tone 2, but we will still hear tone 1, although its pitch won't be controlled. Now, if you hook this up to volts per octave again, you will have them both working at the same pitch, but there's really no point in doing that because by having this the way we had it over here, you basically get that same result. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Now, the reason why you would do this is if you wanted to, for example, I'm going to hold a note here. How about a D? Something like that, where now I've tuned this oscillator for this tone 1 to be the same pitch that I'm playing with tone 2, but tone 2's pitch will change when I go. Both notes release at the same time because I have the gate hooked up here to tone 1, so it carries over. So we only hear that drone of this pitch D here when I press a key. And so that can sound pretty cool, and that has its uses. Let me put this back over here and initialize this. And now we can hear what it sounds like with tone 3. So let's say I want this to be my center pitch. I could tune this one down and this one up. There we go. You know, you can get some pretty cool sounds here. Also another use here. Let's go back to tone 2 and initialize all these again. So right now, tone 1 and tone 2 will basically play simultaneously. Tone 3, however, I'm going to use its output to modulate tone 2. Now we need to adjust this knob here, either below or above the 12 o'clock position. Now when you play throughout the range, now in something like this, maybe it'd be a good idea to have an envelope or that process module to kind of slew values together so that I'm playing the same note here, but you hear different timbres each time because it's basically at different positions in you know, the phase of the modulation. So you could, of course, use an external oscillator to do this as well. Although you'll find that you can achieve more of the actual game sounds from this chipset when you just use this chipset, because then you are basically getting what was in the games that use this chipset. So I am going to turn this channel down and we're going to listen to, that was Pulses, which models the Sunsoft FME-7 chipset. And now we're going to take a look at, let's put it up here right alongside, at, yeah, it's hard to read. I'm going to have to zoom in here for a moment. Yeah, it says Pulse. I know this models the what do you call it? The Konami VRC6 chipset, but I forget what Kautenja's name for it is. Looks like Pulse. No. I read this here, which is hard. Step Saw. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, all right. So anyway, here's the step saw, and I'm going to put its channel up, and we're starting off the same way on tone 1. Now notice here there's a tone 1, tone 2, and then the third is called a saw because it's a sawtooth wave, so it's going to sound different. So, and overall the module sounds different as well. Now let's hear its tone 2. That has some pretty good bass on it already. That's pretty good stuff there. And it really works in a very similar way. Now, let's hear the sawtooth added to the mix. This is still detuned. I'll leave it that way. Now, I will also add that both of these modules do work with the polyphonic system here in Rack 2. Let's say we want to go with, well, I'm going to select 4, but I'll show you that usually 2 or 3 voices is about all you want to do. Here, listen to this. All right. Yeah, 4 can get to be a little much. So anyway. And in fact, I just went to 2 voices there because we have 3 oscillators on this one and they are detuned. If I initialize them so that they're no longer detuned and they're basically playing one pitch together. 3 voices can still be pretty thick, but you may want this. I mean, this is a pretty cool sound. Let's see here. Alrighty, so anyway, yeah, you can do the other things that I talked about before. And in fact, we're going to try something else here. If I can get this audio cable moved over. I'm going to take the output of the saw here. And we do have pulse width here. Where now this saw would modulate the pulse width. Get some distorted sounds and stuff like that. Of course, you could use a low frequency oscillator. Let me see if I could get this down to a low frequency here. No, not low enough. But a low frequency oscillator where you can hear. Let's just pull out standard. We'll do it with a sine wave. And modulate. Gotta disconnect this one. And modulate our pulse width there. Gotta be one of the first 2 tones that are actual pulse tones. Now, the thing I'm hearing there Yeah, I was able to widen it there now, so now you hear more of a full range pulse width modulation. But I don't know. In my tastes, I'd prefer not to. But you can set it manually for either of these. And get different sounds. And so, you know, that's another thing that you can do. Over here, we do not have the pulse width modulation options. There is modulation here, but it, I don't believe it's pulse width. It didn't sound, I don't know, it didn't sound like it, but with the modeling that's going on here, maybe it was. But it leads me to believe otherwise, because this also has separate mods here. So it sounds more like frequency modulation. So let's try that on this one here. We're still coming out tone 2. And we're going to go up here to the modulation. Let me initialize this again. Remember, we are still in polyphonic mode. So, yeah, all sorts of ways to modify the sound with these modules. So anyway, I hope that was a fairly good tour of what you can do with these modules. I think they're pretty cool. If you found this useful or entertaining or in any way at all redeemable, please hit that like button. It helps the channel out immensely. And like, share, subscribe. And until next time, take care and stay free.